Hello everyone and welcome to another video with me on Berets, and today we're going to be going through the global and JP news that I didn't get time to record about yesterday, mainly because things are just too busy for me, so let's get right into it. Global basically ended up getting an app update this week, and a really nice quality of life app update too. I should say that it's always appreciated when they do add new features to the game, or features that just improve the overall user experience, which is something I'm going to talk about in another video I'm recording right after this for a different game. But no matter what game it is, I do always appreciate it when the developers make things a little bit better. Would it be nice if these things were in the game from the get-go? Yeah, but you know, sometimes you have your base game and you think that's enough, and then you find out that, hey, we can just add these features, why not? So the features and adjustments were a download size prompt option to enable prompt for downloads more than 10 megabytes, which is good because some of the notifications for the downloads have been so ridiculously small that I really think that this is a needed feature. Companion setup, set up to 5 different units from a player's own inventory for use as companions. Great upgrade to the friend list. Wonderful on JP's side, just to have more options available to everybody. And yeah, makes it easier to potentially find friend units that you are looking for, just by having different stuff and not trying to hunt down your friends and say, hey, set this character up in this position, and only being able to have one. Good change. Ability Awakening Material Location Guide speaks for itself. Mission cleared counter for maps added. Unit series logo displayed on summoning units. This one's kind of mediocre just because it's like, okay, well, I think most people who play this game have an understanding. And again, I'm not sure who the new players are. Slighted. Turn counter for buff debuffs displayed in battle added. That's just probably my most favorite part of this entire update, just because it is a little annoying to try and keep track of how long the buffs are going. So yeah, it's just a good quality of life thing to make things a little bit easier. Total damage dealt at the end of each turn, good for testing stuff out. Trust ability can now also be activated by equipping Super TMR. So there you go, global players. Finally, you can use your Super TMRs to activate those abilities. So, you know, get those Super TMRs a-coming. Now, I could be missing maybe a few pieces in the update, but if I did get everything, great. Fantastic. I really love that app update. Now, the next piece of news for Global was Fid and Silka, which is still wrong for anybody who's wondering out there. It's Fitrah and Fid. Get it right. Alright, so what were the enhancements, the global enhancements? Well, CG Fid ended up with Water Splash getting a slightly higher modifier, as well as Aquan Hunter getting a very small upgrade. Fid was basically untouched, left in almost the exact same state Fid was before. Now, to be fair, Fid is an absolutely solid debuffer unit for a long time into the future, barring any global exclusives, so I'm not overly surprised that this is all she got. I was really surprised when I saw the global upgrade on them because they were just that good on the JP side. So, yeah, I'm not surprised about this at all, that this is where Fid ended up. Does it feel a little marketing gimmicky that they basically put the notification on there knowing that there just wasn't much of an upgrade? Probably. I don't think that's a very big stretch to say. CG Fitrah, Water Splash, Tropical Cocktail got some upgrades. Water Splash got a bigger modifier. Tropical Cocktail got also restores 60 MP to all. Water and light resistance increased by 10%. And HP and MP cost increase. So it's a little bit increased, but you get more out of it. And I think that is totally fine. I think that sometimes you have to, if you're going to make an ability better, you got to also just make it cost a little bit more. You gotta, I don't mind balances that actually make parts of it worse if the overall is better, and the overall is better here. Just having that entire MP restore. Yeah, I unplugged my headphones because there was a knot in the cable that was just driving me crazy. And fixed. Okay. So as for CG Fitrah, I think she's totally fine. I am actually really... Again, some people I've noticed are poo-pooing her a little bit, and that's too bad, because she is an absolutely great support unit that is a summoner. That is the big value, is that she can heal, she can support, she can provide status protection and all of that, but she can also do the summon thing and summon off any character. It's pretty useful just to free up a little bit of, you know, designs or like efficiency of equipping your team and whatnot with whatever summon you need, given that summons are such a big support of killers or elemental resistance. So yeah, I'm still saying that Fitrah is really great too. Whether you get CG Fid or CG Fitrah, both are absolutely fantastic. Alright, now that's basically all the global news that I want to talk about. Time to talk about the JP side. And the JP side does have a fair bit to talk about, just because the new event is live pretty quick here, but there is enhancements and trial abilities. So I do want to talk about those, because those are super important, given that there are just so many. So starting out with Aranea, Aranea gets a really big 3000% physical attack with a 450% modifier gifted afterward from the ability to do some other attacks for 6 turns, as well as 750% modifier for a whole bunch. It really does step Aranea up quite a bit in terms of the damage she can do. Whether or not she can outdamage Sid, true dual wield Sid, I'm not confident in speaking. She also gets 70% attack, 50% jump damage, and 75% physical killers. Really good, I think, for Aranea. She was pretty lackluster for the longest time. It's nice to see her get a nice, powerful attack. Will it really make that big of a difference? Oh yes, it's also on a 2-turn cooldown, available turn 2. So not right away, and that's something I want to talk about overall a little bit later. Glauca, gonna skip. Nyx, we're just going with the 5 stars because I don't want this video to be 40 minutes again. AoE 3000% physical attack, losing 45% HP, self 3000% damage modifier on risky slash for 3 turns. 3-turn cooldown, available turn 3. Again, really nice, big, powerful attack that also boosts a whole bunch of, another ability in his kit. Also gets a 100% chance to ignore 1 fatal attack above HP 1%. I still think the most valuable thing about Nyx is just the big limit burst charge he can do. This is really strong, and its HP cost is surprisingly not that bad. And it even does give a benefit to another ability. So I think this is pretty interesting, if nothing else. Next up, Gladiolus. First of all, a single target 850% physical attack with defense as attack, 100% chance to be targeted for 3 turns, and self 30% physical damage reduction for 3 turns. This is not a cooldown ability. This is great. Gladi has been missing for the longest time a provoke ability, and now he finally gets it. It is on a physical attack, but it does give some physical damage reduction, so getting provoke and then getting provoke. It is a very nice thing. I don't think it will be enough to really push him anywhere close to top level tanks, but hey, for people who want to use Gladio again, his kit's more complete now. 50% defense, 50% spirit boost, 100% paralyze, confuse, and petrify resist with a 50% chance to be targeted naturally. So again, brings him into a little bit more in line for what is current, but definitely does not really put him completely up there. Regis, Regis will get a new ability, Shelter Wall, AoE 100% attack, defense, magic, and spirit break resistance for 3 turns, and a 2500 HP barrier for 3 turns. Feels pretty meh. Not that I thought Regis was bad anyway. Regis is a pretty new unit. This just doesn't, like, this ability doesn't really scream amazing to me. I guess it's just nice to have the break resistance on an ability. And King of the People, defense, spirit of 30%, 5 limit burst crystals per turn, an extra 5% MP recovery, and MP recovery is always good in my opinion. Luna Freya gets a add water to attacks for 3 turns for allies. AoE minus 120% water resistance for 3 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. Available turn 1. Really strong. Available turn 1 is fantastic, always. Lag is pretty much bad. 3-turn cooldown, definitely very quick. But adding water for 3 turns to all allies and 120% AoE water debuff for 3 turns is an amazing ability. It would be nice if she could have different elements with this ability, but really trying to maybe give Luna a little bit more, given that a lot of people have spoke badly about her. Also, something about her banner or something people didn't like. Arden gets Red Phantom Sword, a single target, 10 hit, 1000% physical attack, 450% extra damage each use for 5 turns to a 3250%, self 250% damage modifier on Swords of Fortune, turn 3, or 3 turn, 4, that's just a misprint there. Self 350% modifier for Shift Break for 3 turns, and Hatred to the Royal Family, 30% attack, 50% attack when dual wielding, more true dual wield, more attack, good for a attacker, and also a new ability that is non-element, that is Stardust Ray Chaining with stackable damage. Cool. Not backloaded, but Arden's not a Summon Fest unit, I guess, is the only thing to take away from that. Prompto gets a single target, 40 hit, 1200% physical attack that enables access to some new abilities for 3 turns, as well as self 1500% modifier on those abilities for 4 turns. Again, that might be a little bit of a misprint, but anyway. Big modifiers, 40 hits is a lot, especially if it is appropriate chaining. 40 hits is uncommon to my knowledge, so it is definitely not a chaining family I'm aware of at this point. But again, kind of what we're seeing with some of the other old units, just a really high hitting or long chaining attack that gives big modifiers up to other abilities. It's interesting, but unless it's like amazing, Prompto's probably not coming back. Gentiana, the free unit, gets an AoE 5-hit ice attack, 3200% magic attack with a 110% ice resist debuff for 3 turns on a 4-turn cooldown, available turn 1. Very strong ice attack with a big ice debuff. Cool. On a free unit, nothing to complain about. Ice God that loves the people. 50% magic, 3 limit burst crystals per turn, and recovery 5 MP. Again, just, more stats, some limit bursts, more MP. Good. And let's just take a peek here. Noctis. We're going to come back. We're going to save Ignace for last. Noctis gets a single target, 3-hit, 500% physical attack, ignoring 50% defense, with a self 455% modifier for Arminger Wakes for 4 turns, and a 750% modifier for Point Blank Warp Strike. Just feels okay. That's a pretty... I mean, I guess it ignores defense and whatnot, but just feels eh. What is interesting is this other ability. 50% attack, defense, magic, spirit, HP, MP, and 50% attack from equipping when dual wielding, 50% Esper stats, and some big modifiers up for abilities. Basically, kind of making regular old Noctis a very budget version of new Noctis. Definitely doesn't compete, but kind of a budget version for those who get them. And as for King, sorry, I want to call him the King, but he is never going to be King. Prince CG Prince Noctis, I got there. Remove attack, defense, magic, and spirit debuffs on self. Recover 100% HP and MP. On a 6-turn cooldown available turn 1. It's a recovery ability. It's a lot of MP for sure, but just seems okay. Nothing bad about it. Nothing like, wow, oh boy. Just seems okay. 30% extra attack and 50% attack equipped when dual wielding. At this point, there are 2 current finishers, big finishers on the JP side that I'm aware of. CG Noctis and the Madame Adele. Madame Adele really does require her to not die, and she is pretty damn tanky. So that is, and as far as I know, she just has the biggest modifier and just does a truckload of damage. CG Noctis, on the other hand, is a little bit, less contingent on surviving. But, just more attack here is fine. It's totally fine. And going back up to Ignace, Ignace gets a AoE 12 Limit Burst Crystal fill on a 3-turn cooldown with a unknown effect at this time of this recording, at least from what I'm seeing on the sheet. AoE and also passives for 40% attack. Wasn't really an attacker before. 40% defense and spirit. Hey, there we go. 40% HP. And 30% fire, ice, and lightning resistance with 7% MP per turn. Brings Ignace a little bit back into the fold, but what is really interesting that I've been waiting to get to is Ignace's enhancements. So level 2 of one of his abilities gives his debuff and unlock enhancements. Basically, his elemental immune gives a single target minus 100% fire, ice, and lightning resist for 3 turns. Enables access to enhancement, fire enhancement, ice enhancement, and lightning enhancement for 5 turns. So basically, the number of turns gets, longer that he can access for imbuing, as well as he gets a big debuff on the enemies. Again, pretty darn good here. Next ability, a damage reduction ability that enables access to his cooking abilities. Gets a 30% damage reduction for 3 turns. Enables access to a list of abilities for 3 turns. And then we get into some of his other abilities. Going up to the 2-star in this next one. AoE 200%. Attack, defense, magic, and spirit for 4 turns. AoE plus 100%. Break resistance to all those stats for 4 turns. And enables access to fire enhancement, ice enhancement, and lightning for 2 turns on a 4-turn cooldown, available turn 1. So that's his big buff ability that you basically would use at the start of the fight. 200% stats is pretty good. The cooldown still being 4 turns. I mean, it lasts for 4 turns now, so it should be fine. Other than that, I'm not over the moon, and I'll say why in a second. But the last enhancement he gets, 40% defense, 40% spirit, 20% HP from his increased ability, and 100% poison abuse petrify. So he gets basically more. Between the series boss battle and this, his enhancements, he gets better access to stuff, better debuffs. He's brought definitely more up to it. But here's the thing. He will not compete with either Sweet Luka or Elfim for one specific reason. There's one really big problem here, regardless of all the enhancement Ignace gets. And that is his turn 1. He does need turn 1 to unlock his abilities. And that has always been kind of the big thing. That is the huge flaw in him, is the idea that you do need a turn to unlock it, and you do need to continue with turns to unlock it. Now, once it gets going, yes, it is competent enough for sure, but it's not like just Elephim or Sweet Luka, who just have access to their abilities basically all the time. And that is really strong. Elephim can also debuff and buff at the same time, and has, you know, elemental immune. So I'm not saying that Ignace is bad. For anybody out there, his enhancements take him a long way. He got way better than I thought he would. I was almost dead certain that Ignace would just get some throwaway enhancements maybe, and he really wouldn't go anywhere. But he actually got some really good stuff. And that is something that I think is worth celebrating. He goes a long way in terms of being a really, really good buffer, but yeah, I like a lot of the stuff that he got. I just still think, I mean, if you already have Elephim or Sweet Luka, both who are UOC-able, you're totally fine here. Moving on. Yougo gets a lot of buffs to various things. Triple cast by removing a HP. Extra stats just for equip bonuses and whatnot. Improvements to some of the attack abilities, both in percentages as well as what they do. And yeah, here's the problem with Yougo. While Yougo getting triple cast is a big boost, Yougo is part of a older chaining family now, and really a lot of Yougo's kit is still trying to do the status effects, which the status effects is just not overly ever going to be super relevant in this game, especially like even in arena. Once you get in higher tier arena, status effects just don't do that much. And doubling down on Pile Driver, a chain family that is super small, is definitely not what I think Yougo needed. So I'm just gonna say it, Yougo. Yeah, rip him pepperonis or something along those lines. But yeah, I don't hate the enhancements for either Ignace or Yougo. I think that, you know, for what is there, they're pretty good. Ignace, if he was the only buffer you had, yeah, and you have a ton of enhancement stones, go for it kind of thing. They do give Ignace some really cool stuff in his enhancements, as well as the series boss battle too. There are a lot of Final Fantasy 15 characters, so at this point, the series boss battle for 15 is a really nice buff for a whole bunch of characters, and a lot of characters do quite get a lot of value out of it. Now, that being said, the thing that I've heard from talking to some people in Discord who have done the fight is it's a bit of an RNG fight, which might be being a little too generous, as well as you really need high damage mitigation. I believe it was like 50% to be pretty darn safe, but definitely that is something to look out for. Still, the 15 got treated fairly well in terms of unlock abilities, and I don't hear this music enough. But yeah, 15 ended up doing fairly good. In terms of what the enhancements could have been for a bunch of really incredibly old units, definitely could have been just absolutely nothing. And there is some maybe cool stuff here for all the characters. But let's face it, if you want to be top tier, just got to be some Festival character these days. Anyway, so that's all for this video. I'll see you next time. And hey, kept this one under 30. Woo!